Hello everybody, here again with the incomparable Chef Wendy Bennett, bringing you another recipe from the May-June quarterly Cellar Club party that wasn't. Anyways, we thought we'd try to bring some of that home to you. I'm going to let Wendy talk a little bit about the next recipe while I open the next wine that we're pairing with that, which is the 2017 Merlot. So go ahead, Wendy. Oh, sorry, it's Destiny Ridge Vineyard. And
it is fabulous. So for this recipe, the pairing is a seasonal ingredient. We have some big cherries that we're going to pick and macerate with a little bit of Chinato, some turbinado sugar, and we're going to put that on toasted bread with a little bit of goat cheese, mixed with cream cheese, top it with the cherries, and finish it off with some thyme, fresh thyme, and some toasted hazelnuts. So if you're ready, you want to get started?
Yeah, you bet. I can start to peel the skin off the toasted hazelnuts.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah. So the bread, I cut the bread a few different ways, and I wanted to talk about Crostini. A lot of people have this dish for an appetizer that people just eat right out of their hand with a napkin, and but this recipe also could be presented on a plate with a thicker slice of bread that you eat with a fork and a knife. So it could be more of an appetizer rather than kind of a hors d'oeuvre. So I cut the bread a couple different ways, and this was a baguette that was not fully cooked, so partially cooked baguette, but you could use a fully cooked baguette. I like to try and find ones that don't have a lot of holes in them, because once you try to top it with cheese and other items, if the baguette has a lot of air pockets in it, the ingredients fall through. Or when you slice it, you don't get as much usable pieces.
So what's the secret to getting the pieces with the smaller holes?
You may have to just do a little bit of trial and error. I mean, what I find is when I go to a bakery and I buy a really fine loaf of bread, that it tends to be more organic and have perhaps some sourdough starter in it and it's fermented longer, so that there would be more holes in it. So. This particular bread I found at a local supermarket that was, like I said, par-baked.
Nice.
Yeah, but you want something that's still hard. You don't want something that is Wonder Bread, airy and
right.
kind of, makes fine toast, but doesn't hold up when you put something on top of it.
We'll save that Wonder Bread for the other Crostini that we'll be doing.
So Patrick is rubbing the skins off of the hazelnuts. These hazelnuts have been toasted in a 400-degree oven for about 8 minutes, and you can find them without the peel, but a lot of times they're sold with the peel or the skin on them. And so once you toast them, you can rub them between a towel. You can put 4 or 5 or however many you can fit in there and rub it together, and it helps to get the skin off of there. A little bit of skin isn't a problem, but a lot of skin looks like, weird on top of the cheese. So that's what you're working on. So back to the bread. The bread has been sliced, olive oil, salt, pepper, and then it was toasted. When it came out of the oven, I took a whole clove of garlic and I rubbed garlic onto each slice, which can be a little bit time consuming, but the warm bread with the garlic gives it a nice kind of roasted garlic flavor. So I have some thicker slices that I've cut on the bias, and then there are some thinner slices that I also cut on the bias, and some rounds that are just cross sections of the bread. And then skinny chefs don't always taste their food before they serve it, and so there's some odd shaped pieces as I was going from straight to bias that would be the chef snacks. And so never trust a skinny chef is what we say, right? So the bread is ready. The cheese mixture that we're going to put on top, the thicker slice would be for more of an appetizer slice, but the cheese is a mixture of goat cheese, fresh goat cheese, and a little bit of the what we call the Chinato or the lower fat cream cheese, and I find that that one's a lot more spreadable. You could just put goat cheese on here, but goat cheese tends to be dry because they drain it, obviously, drain the whey off, and then it ends up being way too dry and it crumbles rather than spreads. So a little bit of, the ratio is 8 ounces of goat cheese to 2 ounces of cream cheese.
Nice,
Just
I
to
like
make
it.
spreadable.
There it is, another pro tip. Another pro
want it to
tip,
be
ladies and
spreadable.
gentlemen, from Wendy Bennett.
So you can just obviously spread this bread on the bread after it's toasted. If I'm doing a lot of them, I would use a scoop, and I would do a half scoop depending on the size of the bread, so that didn't have to scoop out each piece, and then use one knife and just go along and spread each one out. So it just depends on how many you're making and how much goat cheese and spread you want on top. All right, so the next piece that goes along with this is the cherries. And it is cherry season here in Oregon, and when I do menus and pair things with the wines that you're featuring for Cellar Club, I do try to have seasonal items involved. And so the cherries, I have this cherry pitter that I really love to use. It attaches to a tabletop, and you put the cherries in the hopper, and then you can just press the handle, and the cherries kind of fall in, the pit goes down into the bottom, and the cherry pops out the other side. It's not 100% foolproof. I still have.
Sounds very gratifying. Just to...
yes, slamming of the cherries is really, it's gratifying. So pitted the cherries, cut them in half, and then allow them to kind of steep or macerate with some of the Chinato that you also make, which I wanted to marinate the cherries in something that would enhance the flavor, but also add another element of complexity in the herbs and the spiciness. Are you willing to share the recipe?
Oh, yeah, just go to the link at the bottom of the screen, and I'll have the formula written out there and step-by-step instructions on how you can make your own Chinato.
I know it's very laborious, simple syrup and a lot goes into it. So
18 botanicals,
Just 18.
made in a traditional method of Barolo Chinato, using a lot of classic alpine herbs and spices. And yeah, you can find Barolo Chinatos at a lot of different bottle shops, and if we get to the point where we're opening cocktail lounges again, a lot of folks around are using various Barolo Chinato, and they're beautiful. So yeah, give them a try.
yeah, I love that with the orange and Pellegrino.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
like
blood
this
orange?
richer, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So I'm kind of what, B+ there right now? B-?
I'd give it A-. I mean,
Wow.
it's a lot of work to get the skins off. And
harder
if you're
than I
making
thought.
this for 600 people, which is
Yikes.
how many people, 600 and some, came to the last one club because they love your wine, and this is a beautiful venue to come and enjoy it. Making this for 640 people or whatever is laborious. So how many?
Work.
Yeah, how many hazelnuts would we have to rub the skin on?
What
for
are
that?
we making here? This is about a 4, 5, 6 person. Well,
Yeah.
I guess for appetizers, we're looking at maybe 10 people.
Yeah,
Okay.
10, 12. So after the cherries sit in the Chinato for half an hour, you drain the liquid off into a pot, and there isn't a whole lot of liquid, but then you add some turbinado sugar to the juice, and so it kind of sweetens it. And thickens the juice a little bit. If you like, if you want the juice to be thicker,
Give it a little viscosity.
Yeah, you could add more sugar, or you could put cornstarch slurry in there and boil it so that it would
Oh, a
be
little
bit
reduction.
thicker.
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna put a little bit of this on here, and like I said, it just depends on how you want to serve it, right? So your guests are going to be walking around, and it can be kind of hard. But my thought, right?
All over here.
I would be wearing it myself, but my thought is that this could be put on plates. So we're gonna garnish this after we put some of the cherries on there.
Cool.
And I would definitely want to eat it with a fork and a knife sitting down. But if the juice was a little bit thicker, then you could have another option. What I like about the juice is it soaks into the bread and then
makes the bread a little bit softer.
Mm-hmm. So this is a thicker slice, which you could set out and people could put it on their own plate, or you could plate them and serve them even with a little side salad, or make more of an event out of it. So cooking is messy, as you can see. But what I'd like to do now, we're going to sprinkle some thyme on there. I have fresh thyme. I'm not much of a gadget person, as I said when we were talking earlier, but my mother-in-law bought me this little herb
Oh, I see.
herb stripper, and so you put the herb in there and you can pull it through and it takes the leaves off, right?
That's brilliant.
For thyme, it takes a lot of time to get the thyme leaves off there, and so I kind of like it. So we're gonna, I need you to crush these up using the mallet, which is also very gratifying, and it's probably gonna make quite a bit of noise, so.
Yep. I'm gonna pause this for a second. Hold on.
We'll be right back. Patrick's still working on the hazelnuts.
A couple more here.
Using a meat mallet, the nuts are in a baggie, and just crush them up that way. So then we're going to sprinkle a little bit of the hazelnuts on top of the cherry mixture. We're going to put thyme, some fresh thyme leaves, just a couple over top, and it is ready to serve. You could also sprinkle a little bit of salt and pepper on there. I'm a big fan of salt and pepper seasoning.
So I'm noticing here as I'm spreading the crushed hazelnuts on top that you want them pretty small, almost like not quite powdered, but pretty small in order to get them to stick. Otherwise, they just fall off. And of course, they look nice on them.
We don't want hazelnut butter. Maybe you hold the plate up to the camera so they can see what we made. I do have an inspiration picture, but I didn't bring it with me.
You see that? Huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and there's plenty here for more. This would also be really good on ice cream. And I didn't try the Merlot with some vanilla ice cream, but maybe more gelato. I think that there would be a lot of uses for this with the Chinato in there. So I have a couple plates so that we don't need to wear the cherry juice down the front, because we would.
Because that's what I do.
Yeah. Would you like to take one?
Oh yeah.
Right there, I have a fork and a knife.
There. You got a plate?
Yep. Fork and a knife for you.
And we're pairing this Crostini with the 2017 Destiny Ridge Merlot. This is one of the wines that is in the Cellar Club pickup for May-June 2020.
You'll love it.
In case I don't get around to posting this video until 2021. All right, I'm just gonna go in with my hands, because that's the kind of eater I am.
Okay, go for it.
All right.
It's gonna make your fingers sticky, but that was probably a better idea.
Yum.
That is good.
Worth the sticky fingers.
Now I need to try the wine. And this wine is has delicious fruit, and what I love about it is it has balance from end to end. And there's almost you could pair this with almost anything, honestly.
Well, two things that really stand out to me is how the cherry and the spice from the Chinato play well with the cherry character in the Merlot. I really like how the Merlot brings out the toasty hazelnut. It really makes that hazelnut pop. You take a bite and have a little bit of it, and then you sip on the wine with another bite, and then suddenly the hazelnut element, the toasty character really comes through.
Mm-hmm.
And the thyme, like that really nice, subtle element in there too. I really.
I'm glad you like it, because we haven't tried this with the wine together before.
My first time.
I like the goat cheese with the wine because I think that it enhances the tannin in the wine actually, and the wine isn't tannic at all, but the goat cheese and the wine, on my palate, played together and complement each other in the dryness, I guess it would be. It's not tannic, it would be dry. And,
Bringing out a little bit of the
when you drink
structure
the wine,
of the wine too.
Yeah, when you drink the wine without food, I think it's a lot more, you get a lot more fruit. But when you eat it with the goat cheese, I think that a lot of other elements come out in it. And you're a lot better than I am at describing what you're tasting. But all I do is match food with wine.
Well, this is another fantastic pairing, Wendy. Blows my mind how you are able to put these recipes together that really are relatively simple. You know,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't something that you do every night, but if you have friends coming over, or you know, maybe you just want to do something nice at the end of the day because your day hasn't been super awesome. A lot of these things are things that can be done relatively simply. I've been surprised at, you know, I'm not a recipe follower, but you know, if you can have your ingredients on hand, putting these together is not terribly difficult. And I really like how having these with the wine really, you know, brings out the best in both, you know, the food and the wine. And this dish is no exception in how it really enhances the perception and the experience of the wine.
Yeah. I just got a bite at a time and then took a drink of wine. It's really great.
Plays well.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that the herbaceousness, right, of that is really delicious. And like you're saying, you can have the cheese already, and this mixture with the fruit and the Chinato and the sugar, this will last probably a month in a sealed container or jar. And then you can have the bread pre-toasted. It could even be something that your guests could assemble themselves if, you know, you're sitting around and drinking wine and chatting. So you have a platter of the toast and the cheese and the cherries and things to sprinkle on top. And because people always love to be interacting while they're drinking. And maybe this is something that you have set out when people show up and you're preparing the next portion of the dinner and they're huddled around the in your kitchen. Yeah, because that's where everybody
Put them
ends
to
up.
work.
That's right. And they can make their own appetizer.
Yeah. Quick question for you. For me, I don't know, I'm like most herbs. The difference between fresh and dried is there's like this chasm. And I think with a dish like this, particularly with you know, the spectrum of flavors from, you know, the full rich cherry experience to the fatty, tangy cheese, that if you try to use dry thyme with this dish, I guess you're gonna be a little disappointed. Would you say
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I didn't even think about that. And it's interesting that fresh thyme, once it's dry, doesn't even look remotely the same. And so you're absolutely right. It would almost be like eating hay on cherries. And I love dry thyme in stock and soup making, but here you really do need fresh thyme. This happens to be a variegated thyme. I probably wouldn't choose, there's lemon thyme, there's all different kinds of thyme. Just get plain old thyme.
Jane
Yeah.
thyme.
Plain thyme. This is variegated, which means it's green and white, but it still is just plain flavored thyme. So that's a really good point on that. And also about the turbinado sugar, you could use demerara sugar. They're both cane sugars that are minimally processed, and they still have a little bit of the molasses in them, almost like a brown sugar, but they are dry. So if you go to the coffee shop and have sugar in the raw, that's the same as turbinado sugar. But demerara and turbinado are similar, but you could use brown sugar in this recipe too, and you get a very similar result. So you don't have to necessarily feel like you have to search that out. Turbinado is available in the coffee section of most supermarkets now, whether it's in packets or in a larger package. So that would be where you would look for it, not in the baking section in most grocery stores.
All right, well, that's the crostini recipe with the pairing, and we're going to do one more recipe for the May-June Cellar Club pickup party that wasn't, and hopefully you'll find these as enjoyable as it's been for us to put them together.